As South Africans, we're aware and I think accustomed to our political leaders basically saying whatever they want. And usually not much comes of it. They basically do whatever they want, they say whatever they want, they act like little children spoiled to the hilt, and the world tends to just roll over. With the election of Trump the second time, that kind of disappeared. You see, Trump was no longer interested in playing the white blame game. Trump was no longer interested in white guilt. Trump wanted a world that treated America fairly, and South Africa was one of the countries that had to face that reality. Now, we were no longer going to skate through on Nelson Mandela's legacy. We were no longer going to get things for free. Instead, if the ANC and by definition South Africa, because they are democratically elected to lead this country and therefore they speak on our behalf as much as too much of the dismay of most people in South Africa. But if they wanted to actually now do business with America, they would have to do so based on the rules that America outlines for every country, not just for South Africa. And the Americans weren't necessarily being unreasonable in what they asked the ANC to do. The first is to prioritize farm murders as a serious crime, something that in multiple videos I have shown is required of any country that wants to take things like farm murder seriously because of the nature of how farm murders work and the complications that come with actually combating that. The second, again, super simple to do. All they have to do is disavow the singing of Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer. Again, something that would be literally as easy as just the government going and officially saying, we're not okay with anyone singing it. The Americans didn't say that they should make it illegal. The Americans didn't say that they should jail anyone who sings it. Merely that the South African government has to distance itself officially from the singing of that song and condemn their previous cadres from actually partaking in it. Again, not a super difficult thing to be asked to do. Then we had them asking about BEE and saying that all American companies should be exempt from actually having to participate in BEE, which again isn't impossible. The Americans don't want to see their corporations forced to sell parts of themselves in order to do business in a country when the Americans don't have the same restrictions on us. If anyone, and if any South African businessman wants to create a business in America, they're not forced to sell 30% of their business to Americans. They can just open a business in America because the Americans understand business brings jobs, jobs bring economic growth. It's good for everyone. There's no need to force people to sell anything. And then the fourth, and there's a couple of others, but the fourth big one is that South Africa should be more open to investment without serious trade and tariff barriers that restrict American goods from actually gaining access to the South African markets. Again, four things that America already does for South Africa that America is simply asking South Africa to also take seriously. The ANC, in glorious fashion, didn't do one of these things. Instead, now at the conclusion of the NEC, we have Fikile Mbalula, and he spoke. He spoke about a lot of things. He said a lot of things. The problem with almost everything he said is that it's completely wrong and fake. The issue, of course, is that in South Africa, no one is going to call him out on it. All of the news media simply purports what he says and nothing else. They don't actually fact check, which is supposed to be their job. News 24 has an entire fake news desk where they apparently call out fake news, except when the ANC does it, in which case they see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. So I will do that instead. This is going to be a bit of a big one, so strap in. But we'll start with his first, I guess, racist rant against white South Africans. Here we go.
Donald Trump called for whites here, gave them special status in America. 49 car guards.
That original, like that first thing should be called into question. There's no evidence to suggest that these 49 people are in fact car guards. If anything, the entire rumor started online by a bunch of X posters of black people who, by the way, in my opinion, are the most racist people in this country. Obviously not all black people. There are plenty of phenomenal black people. I know quite a few of them. I'm good friends with quite a few black people. But a lot of black people in this country have a sort of free pass when it comes to racism, where they believe that they can say whatever they want, they can do whatever they want, and nothing will ever happen to them. Just yesterday, we have a podcast where a bunch of black creators are sitting there talking about how colored people in this country are incestuous and sleeps with their sisters and their brothers, and that they're crazy. The brazenness of that racism is off the charts, but they're black, so they're allowed to say whatever they want. And I guess the same is true for Fikile Mbalula. This is what happens when you treat a group of people with kid gloves and you allow them to get away with whatever they want. They end up being able to do and say whatever they want, sing songs like Kill the Poor, Kill the Farmer, and nothing ever happens to them because they believe themselves to be above the law, which is in South Africa absolutely true.
Arrived in America. Car guards
They're not car guards.
arrived in America.
And you can hear how they're laughing, right? People in the media laughing at this statement, people on the ANC laughing at this statement, finding it super funny. Ha, the white car guards, which should speak something about the ANC's government style. If after 30 years, you still have people who have to make a living watching cars, that's highly problematic.
He is saying that we are a racist country, we are everything
You literally just proved him correct.
else. He gave them special status to leave.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't leave.
Actually, from what we know and from all the reports, there are thousands of people waiting. This is the whole point. The Americans are now keeping it quiet. The first group that went over, there was a big story made of it, right? A big photo op. We now know, thanks to a lot of internal reports, that no one else that's going over is being made public due to threats of violence. In fact, the Americans are now asking people not to post online when you've been accepted as a refugee because of threats of violence and people actually hunting down people claiming refugee status in America. So it's not true that no one has left. It's just that you're not seeing the people leaving anymore.
And then when they arrived there, it's chaps who are looking after cars here. Because this country, they are the most well looked after people by this economy.
Okay, so that's according to him. But let's just look at the actual facts on the ground. Cyril Ramaphosa, a month ago, just a little under a month ago, celebrated the fact that black households are now, getting richer and that the wealth gap between black and white is actually shrinking in this country. So while this can be considered progress, this is according to Cyril Ramaphosa, the average income of white households is still nearly 5 times as high as black African households. Then he goes on, or now Daily Investor comes back and they say, however, what he did not mention was that narrowing the gap between racial groups happened primarily because white and Indian household income declined. From the outset, it should be noted that household income is a pure measure of a country's wealth or living standards. Absolutely true. But then when you actually look at the chart here, you will see that black households from 2011 to 2015 went from 125,000 Rand to 136,000 Rand, and in 2023 to 143,000 Rand. That's a 14.4% change. Colored households also went quite up to 7.6%. And then you look at Indian and Asian households that declined by minus 8.1%, and white households that declined by minus 2.2%. So the wealth gap, in fact, isn't getting better because black people are getting richer. It's getting better because white and Asian people are getting poorer. But a far better metric would actually be to look at US dollars, right? So we take household income and we convert it to the US dollar that has been a lot more stable and hasn't been losing most of its wealth and most of its value over the course of the last decade. And here we find that the South African average real household income in 2011 in US dollars was almost 30,000 US dollars. In 2015, that had come down to about 15,000 US dollars. And now in 2023, it's 12,500 US dollars. So if anything, South African households on average has gotten poorer, right? With whites and Indians leading the charge in that getting poorer category. So you can chalk up these growths purely to how the rand has been declining and salaries are forced to go up to simply keep up with the actual demand. Not to mention, of course, the fact that unemployment in South Africa is through the roof.
They are okay. KTK, they are fine in this economy.
They're not. I just proved that to you.
And then they did not go to the United States
Again, they are going.
of America. In less than a week being there, they started killing each other there.
Okay, so his claim here, from what I could find, is based on this. It's the only one I could find, where he says that it's a South African man that killed his girlfriend. Well, actually, it's not. It's a Cape Townian woman that was killed by an American man. I can't find any other evidence. Maybe it's out there if you guys know of the story that he's referring to, but it's not the people who left the country that killed each other over there, right? That's just literally not true. A Cape Townian woman was killed by her husband in America, but that has nothing to do with the refugees.
A man killing his girlfriend there. This is what they do here.
Wow. Okay.
Killing each other over something. They are in the courts.
Okay, so apparently we're the ones killing everyone. So we go over and we look at a study here from PMC. They did a study trying to find out who is killing who. The problem in South Africa, of course, is trying to actually figure out which race is committing most of the murders and most of the violent crimes in South Africa is very difficult because since 2007, the police stopped recording race as part of their sort of investigations. But okay, homicide rates among colored men killed by family and acquaintances is the highest in the country, right? About 32.3 out of 100,000 in the population. And they were significantly higher than African men, who represent about 21.1 out of 100,000 people killed. And that was significantly higher than white men, who are at the moment of this, you're standing at, 1.5 out of 100,000, right? So 1.5 out of 100,000. In other words, just based on this, right? White men are committing the least amount of crimes in this country by a very long margin. African men were more likely than men of other racial groups to be killed by strangers, but this was only significant when compared with white men. 2.895, 1.4 to 4.2. Homicide rates among unemployed men were significantly higher than for employed men across all victim-perpetrator relationship types. So clearly, right, it is not true that white men are the vast majority of killers within the country. And sadly, this is the best that we can do because the police doesn't record the actual race of the victim or the perpetrator. So they could only look at people who are killed by family members or acquaintances, because that would give you most black people are friends with black people. Most white people are friends with white people. And so when you're killed by someone that you know, someone that you're friends with, it sort of stands to reason that it's probably someone of the same race. But again, we can't really know any of this stuff because the police doesn't do their actual job. But you could just open the news, right? You can literally open the news and you will see almost every single day that there is someone in court for some kind of murder. There are tons of murders in this country every single year, and the vast majority of those murders are not perpetrated by white men. That is not in any way, shape, or form me saying that black people are bad or black people are evil, but by the very nature of the statistics brought up by Fikile Mbalula, he's just straight up wrong about this claim. Anyone who murders anyone is bad, and it should be looked at, and the police should do more to try and keep people safe. But a big part of this, a huge part of this, is as a result of ANC policy that keeps people poor, keeps people uneducated, and we continuously live in an environment where the life of human beings are continuously undermined and undersold, and it just has no real value in the current culture in this country.
Our people saying they look like monkeys.
Yeah, you guys sing songs about killing us and slaughtering us. You literally just called us a bunch of car guards. So clearly the racism goes both ways. The difference, of course, here is that when we say it, we end up in court. When you say it, you become president.
Killing blacks here in our country.
How often does that actually happen?
And then they went to badmouth us in the United States of America. But Donald Trump invited them.
Look, I'll be happy to take back everything I just said. If someone can give me the actual statistics, but we know that there are at least 50 to 60 white people that are killed every single year in this country on farms. We're not even talking about cities, by black men, right? So black men killing white people. If you can show me how many black people are killed by white people, we can have that discussion. I'd be happy to. I couldn't find any evidence that backs up Mbalula's claims here, but maybe he knows something I don't. So please share that information if you do. Anyways, the man is not done. He has more to say that will absolutely blow your mind.
Possible. If it means we're going to suffer through sanctions as leaders of the ANC, let it be.
He's speaking big, right? He's thumping his chest because this is what the ANC does. They did it when Trump announced the tariffs in the first place because they don't actually think that it will happen. That's why he's speaking so big, right? That's why he's talking big and boasting and going, yeah, bring it on. He doesn't think that it will actually happen.
Never beg imperialists to subvert our democracy, to subvert our sovereignty. It happened during the period of struggle. It will happen even now. We will never forsake our country, which we fought for its liberation. And we're still marching on even now. Not this ANC, not this leadership. If they want to bring sanctions on us, let them bring them. But this country, South Africa, all its citizens know that it is a democratic country. It's a liberated country.
It is a liberated country, except you keep talking about how you have to liberate the country. So is it liberated or is it being liberated? You don't seem to be able to. When it goes really badly and you're being blamed for a bad economy, you go, we're liberating the country. Then when the US is saying, hey, stop with the liberation of your country, you go, oh, we're a liberated country. We'll do what we want.
And we're still transforming this country in order to achieve equity.
Okay, so they're still transforming this country. So I thought, okay, let's quickly look at how this transformation is going, because they're doubling down. They're saying, we will not cancel affirmative action. We will not get rid of BEE because we are liberating this country. We're marching forward, liberating this country. Okay, well, great stuff. Let's look at this. All right, so based on this chart, we see that unemployment in South Africa from 1994 was just below 20%. It actually dipped down from 1995 to 1996 to almost 15%, which is pretty good. Then we go from about 1996 all the way to about 2003. It goes up to about 27%, which is pretty bad. Then all the way to 2008, we actually dipped down below the 25% rate. Then throughout the Zuma years, we sort of stay stable at around 25%, although it should be mentioned here that there's a little bit of finagling going on at this point. So the figures aren't, it's based on the government's explanation for what unemployment is, which effectively isn't actually what unemployment is, because it doesn't include anyone who isn't looking for work. It only includes those who are actually looking for work. So anyone who's given up because they can't find a job, they're just not counted, which means this number is significantly higher. But you can see the spike. So you've not made a dent. You've not actually brought it down in any way, shape, or form. If anything, you've made it worse as time has gone on. Here you have the unemployment rise in South Africa as is counted in real terms, right? And you find just in 2016, it was 25%, right? This is for real terms now, okay? 25%. We are now in 2025, quarter one, we are on 32.9%. 32.9%. That's where we are now. So you're continuously liberating this country, yet your liberation is bringing devastation. But hey, I mean, let's just quickly go back in case you missed it, in case you forgot. This is what's happened to the actual real world income of South African households since 2011. The liberation movement of the ANC has made people more than half poorer. In other words, South African households has lost 50% of their purchasing value and purchasing power since 2011 alone. But they're liberating the country, guys.
And we will still pursue redress because we are not equal.
No,
in
well, we're not equal because you guys keep making everyone unequal. Like just to highlight this again for you guys, you're not making what you're doing is you're trying to make everyone equally poor, which is the basic communist mindset.
this economy. This economy is still male white dominated. And you want to tell us to abandon policies that seek to advance transformation.
The economy is male white dominated because you keep excluding white males from every other element of the economy. Then they open businesses and their businesses start making money. And then when their businesses get big enough, you force them to sell 30% of their businesses to your cronies and cadres connected to the government. And then you complain that, oh, the government or the country is still white male dominated. But that's just obviously not true. I mean, we can literally go through the statistics here. South Africa has just over 7 million taxpayers in the country. White people comprise just over 3.8 million people of the country. That's total. Children, old people, and working people combined. This means that the overwhelming majority of people in this country paying taxes are not white people. It cannot be white people. White people do make a lot of money because you keep forcing them to open their own businesses and their businesses are doing well. But the argument that white people are dominating this country is as a result of your own failures. It's not because white people are doing something special. It's your failures that's forcing us to start businesses and go at it alone.
We're told by somebody who's more wealthy than all of countries combined in the
He's more wealthy than South Africa.
world that I'll give you Starlink, but you must not do black economic empowerment.
Well, yeah, because Starlink will actually create jobs. We know because the research has been done on this. Internet connectivity is a great driver of jobs.
In our country, we must agree to that. It's not possible.
Yeah, well, it's not possible, but you guys keep destroying this country. So maybe at some point you should just turn around and realize that you've caused a lot of crap. But okay, just last thing before we end this, because the man is an absolute racist. Never mind. Dr. Brigalia Bam reflects on how 30 years have proven too short a time to achieve true transformation. Now, as you would expect, Eyewitness News did the media thing, which is to never fact check anything and just say what needs to be said, right? So, with age comes wisdom is a popular adage, one that comes to mind frequently when in conversation with Dr. Brigalia Bam, the first African woman to serve as an electoral commissioner. Hers is a story interwoven with that of South Africa's 31 years of freedom. And she had the following to say: we never realized that 30 years will be too short for us to acquire the real democracy and better life for all. We had never run a government and never had an experience of managing the change, she frankly admitted. Well, you were told in the beginning by the National Party, as bad as they were, that they'll help. You were the ones who kicked them out of your government of national unity and went at it alone anyways. But never mind that. Let's just quickly take a look. Japan, after the Second World War, lies in absolute ruin. It's absolutely destroyed. And in less than 30 years, Japan manages to grow at a constant rate of 9.6% annually. 9.6% annually. In fact, it becomes one of the strongest economic blocks in the world in just 30 years. So clearly, it's not impossible. The Germans, right after the Second World War, lies in complete financial ruin. And within 40 years, it becomes one of the strongest manufacturing giants on the European continent. This is after the entirety of that country was reduced to rubble. First by Hitler, that had a scorched earth policy. As they were retreating, they were basically breaking and blowing up everything. And then also the Allies bombing the living crap out of everything. They were able to do it. There's plenty of other examples of this happening as well. But according to us here in South Africa, and this fountain of wisdom, according to Eyewitness News, 30 years isn't enough. We need more time. Well, okay, so if 30 years isn't enough, and everything seems to be going down, everything seems to be going the wrong bloody direction, how much time will be enough? Like, at what point will we get to your promised utopia? When will this liberation be complete? Because you seem to be going in all the wrong directions. The rand is losing value. The economy is slowing down. Actually, it's declining. The country is losing purchasing power. The people are getting poorer. More and more unemployed people every single day. More and more people on government benefits every single day. We now have over 26 million people on government benefits. So at what point do we now say, okay, the liberation now has started? Because clearly it never starts. It's going the wrong direction. Maybe you need to change course. Fikile Mbalula, maybe this is your wake-up call to actually do something different. But no, you're just going to continue and double down. This is fun. This is great. We'll just be along for the ride, I guess, because you guys clearly don't seem to know what you are doing. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know in the comment section down below. I hope I covered everything. I hope I included everything. I hope I gave you a lot more insight into what is actually happening in the country. As always, if you enjoy what I do and you think more people should have access to it and more people should be seeing the truth, the rational news as it needs to be presented, please consider hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and leaving a comment, because it does help out. YouTube loves engaged viewers, so please consider doing so. If you want to support me a little bit more directly, you can hit the link in the description down below to go to Patreon. Just $3 a month, get you access to ad-free viewing of all of my content, or hit the join button just below this video. As always, be good to each other, be kind to each other, and I'll see all of you in the next one. Peace.